What's going on, everybody? It's Frito here for ClickEds. In today's video, we're going to be breaking down the Sova gameplay from Dafran. Yes, I know he's a controversial character, but let me tell you something, his gameplay is not. And even though I think Sova has one of the highest skill ceilings in the entire game of Valorant, already Dafran has shown us many tricks of the trade that we can apply to our games right now. Going into Sova's kit, the first area that we're going to need to respect and go into the lab and properly learn and memorize is RECON bolt lineups. In today's video, we'll show you a few examples of Dafran's most common used ones on the first 3 maps from the beta. Pay close attention to where he stands exactly and what pixels he's lining up in the sky in order to line up reliable recons across the map. This one for grass, he finds himself in the center of the edge of this wooden window frame, then aims slightly offset of the roof, readies up 1 bar of charge on the bow and flings it out, and it lands perfectly into grass. These lineups are best when used from a completely safe location on the side of the map that you can control early on in the round to launch to the other side of the map to either set up for favorable duels for your teammates or at the very least get scouting information for where the enemy is or isn't. This is great on defense to figure out the attack path of the enemy, but I think even stronger on attack, where entering onto sites can be tricky without this key bit of information. Quite a fancy lineup on a long here. His teammates ready and waiting, holding shift, not alerting the enemy to their presence until this recon dart jump comes over the top along with the breach ult, and then they all rush in. That recon dart lingers long enough to mark the player on A short, allowing Dafran to pre-fire him, making for a much favorable duel than a straight dry peek. These early recon darts at the start of the round on either side are going to be essential to your Sova gameplay, and since you have the ability on cooldown, there's little reason not to use one early just to get some info on where the enemy is. Worst case scenario, they shoot the dart, but that tells you something anyway. Now, the other way to use the recon dart is mid-round. No need to launch it across the map every time. Here, this is from the tournament. Dafran and his team hold back passive until he has the recon dart available again, places it high over the site so it has line of sight over everything. Keep in mind that the diameter of the recon dart's effect spans out quite far, but you don't want any cover to block off its line of sight, so you want to be sure to place it high enough so that it can see enemies hiding behind things. Simply marking the position of these 2 enemy defenders made for easy cleanup for his team. And when it comes down to it, on such a short cooldown, you really shouldn't entry into any difficult section of the map without a dart in first. Yes, the enemy is going to see the dart, which is something you're going to have to play around. You are giving something up to the enemy, announcing that your dart is there, but more times than not, with how small the maps were anyway, you're not really telling them much other than the general area of where you are. So early on just about every point of contact, you want to put these darts around corners into the open area to make contact for you, so you don't have to waste your face to find out where the enemy is. Now, once you got your recon darts down, the next bit of scouting tech from Sova is his owl drone. Now, because you only can buy 1 charge of owl drone, it's important that you're a little bit more frugal on when you decide to use it. If you just want to gather info blindly, sometimes just the recon bolt will be better because it regenerates. Owl drone, you really want to commit when you're sure there's about to be contact, or timing in with a teammate who's bound to make contact. If a teammate wants to push through smoke, they should always do it with the owl drone out in front, which is one of the ways to bypass the slowing effect that strong stalling smokes like brimstones have on your team. This push onto A shows a few good principles using the owl drone. After the recon bolt scouts no one's playing up on long, he's fairly confident that he can wait until the end of this corner to launch the owl drone. This is going to give it more time as it flows through the site, waiting long enough to use it, but you should also be keen to notice how good Dafran's crosshair placement is while using the drone. Always keeping the indicator ready for an enemy to pop out, because getting a mark is one of the most secured ways to combo with a teammate in the entire game. Highlighting them through the map and on the mini-map, every ability in the game basically can set up to work with that. Here, the Brimstone ult launching on the site floods the Omen out so Dafran can pick him up, but either way, he was put between a rock rock in a hard place. Timing is going to be very crucial with this. Here, the owl drone comes out during the breach initiation, catching the aggression of the enemy, allowing for the early peak of the attackers to get interrupted and for his Cypher teammate to get a pick rather than get picked himself. After seeing Dafran use the drone a lot, a few general tips beyond what I've already said. You should try flying it in lower, just because most enemies' crosshair placement is going to be head height, so flying at the toe level is going to force them to aim down, perhaps killing it slower than they otherwise would, or causing them to have poor crosshair positioning when your teammate comes through. When you launch it, be sure to be in a safe position, but also facing the direction the drone already wants to go, because it turns slowly but moves forward at its full speed. So you don't want to waste too much time turning if you can help it, as you're going to have to turn slowly to clear corners anyway. So you want to cut out as much of that downtime early on in its use during the launch period. Now, next up, we're going to talk about the shock dart. I will admit, I didn't see Dafran use any early round shock darts from across the map. When those are a bit more developed and understood how the meta works on them, we will make more videos discussing those kind of lineups. I know, for example, you can line up two from across the map to land them like an aerial strike to both hit at the same time and one hit kill a target. Pretty nuts when people figure out some meta positions for that, but most of the time Dafran uses the shock dart as a bit more of a crowd control tool, set up to deny aggression onto him or to clear out corners. For example, here he combines with Brimstone for an anti-eco with a molly and a shock together. If there was enemies rushing down that lane, they surely would have been blown up by that utility. Or here, after getting a pretty nasty recon dart, knowing where the bomb is down on the map, lays down simple one bounce darts around the corner to either dissuade the movement of the enemy, delaying time, or adding a little bit of chip damage onto their health. The shock dart is a pretty big area of effect, although it can be difficult to have it reach its max damage, so don't have a high expectation of how much damage it can do, but it is very reliable at doing things like clearing Cypher traps or spamming around corners at the very least. Now here's a round where Sova's entire kit kind of comes together, where we put out our recon dart deep into the site and then use our owl drone to scout what our recon dart can't see, giving us full coverage of the site here. Remember, even if we don't land a dart on an enemy, they'll still be semi-highlighted on the mini-map. We do get a dart onto the enemy Phoenix, allowing for our team to rush in and punish his position. And using that big AoE on the shock darts, we're able to punish where the Sova's been playing the entire time and get a kill with the shock dart. Pretty rare to see a lot of shock dart kills right now, but as I said, I think as the meta develops and we all master every spot on the map that you can toss it perfectly around corners or pre-fire with perfect lineups across the map, we're going to notice that it's a lot stronger than we think. But you'll have to hit subscribe and check out our future videos for us to find those out. For now, we'll move on to talking about Sova's ultimate, where if you don't know, this is going to be a big boost to your gameplay. You actually can put pings on the map. A lot of us know that, but the way the mechanic works actually makes it much easier for you to line up your abilities across the map. Here, Dafran puts down two pings, one on the entrance to mid window and the other to grass, kind of letting him hit two birds with one stone with this angle. And what the ping does is tell you the elevation, not just the direction of where you need to aim it. Very important. So without any information here at all, he's allowed to use his ult towards the very common spawn lanes of the enemy, punishing their early aggression. We'll see him do it here again, trying to pre-fire it down the A route, gets no ticks at all, so instead puts it towards the doorway to mid doors, does get a connection, and then finishes off the kill. Remember, you can use your mini map to readjust, and it's going to be important to really memorize or learn the elevations of the areas of the map that you're trying to shoot towards in order to see the maximum benefit. You'll start to learn them a bit more, I think, when you start to employ this ping tactic that Dafran uses. Notice how he's even doing it here to try to set up a wall bang from B all the way down into A sewers. It doesn't end up working, but this kind of shows you that the sky's the limit with knowing how to wall bang your abilities like this. And of course, you don't have to pre-fire ult across the map, because you have a couple different ways to land marks onto the enemy, sending your owl drone in to get a dart connection is one way to very easily line up for an ultimate follow-up. I think one thing you're going to want to keep in mind is an example like how Dafran sets himself up ahead of time with his ultimate as he sends the owl drone in. See, he's already ready to be lined up on hookah to adjust to whatever position the enemy was in so he can wall bang Hunter's Fury through the map. So you'll want to start your owl drone in a spot you think is going to be a good vantage point to use the ultimate when you finally get your mark. And one last clutch use of it is here. He uses it a bit as a delay tool to save his teammates getting rushed down. He notices on the minimap that a whole bunch of enemies are rushing down mid, likely going to overwhelm his double doors player. And because of that, he spams it across the map in a way that either is going to make space for his teammate to peek out with it or to just punish the enemy's aggressive positioning. They do try to scramble, but he is able to cut them off. There's only so many ways they can go to escape his ult and not run into a teammate's line of fire. This is a bit of a riskier way to use the ultimate, I feel, but in a clutch scenario to save a teammate from being overrun, it might be something you want to pull out. And well, guys, at least for now, that's everything for this advanced guide on Dafran's Sova gameplay. There's still going to be much more to learn, obviously, so if you want to stay tuned for our upcoming news and guide content coming onto the channel, be sure to hit subscribe and hit the bell icon to actually get notified when our videos go live. Click like on the video if you did enjoy it, and if you want to see us play games live, you can head over to our Facebook gaming live stream. We'll be playing a lot of Valorant this week, so click the link in the description to go check that out. Other than that, guys, that's been it for me. I've been Frito for Clickheads. We'll see you guys next time.